Chapter 111, Elder Yue Jingchan. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. There were 12 students standing outside of Divine Power Palace now that Ziqian, Prince Yue Jingchan, and Yao Qingtong had joined them. Each one of them was a genius. Boom! When the first tray of light spilled upon the palace roof, the heavy palace doors slowly opened. A silver-robed old woman and a golden-robed old man walked out from the doors. They stood on the 9 floors high white stone stairs, looking down upon the 12 young warriors. The silver-robed old woman looked about 90 years old and had a hunchback. She walked using a cane. Her brows and hair were grey, making her seem wizened. She was none other than King Hu, one of the 2 deputy headmasters of the Western Campus. Her voice was loud and clear as she said, "I'm King Hu, the deputy headmaster of the Western Campus. I believe the older disciples are already familiar with me and the new ones will know me from now on. As per the rules, the Divine Power Palace will be opened once a month. Only the first-ranked disciples of each year are allowed to enter and practice for 2 hours. It'll be a little different this year. We have 4 freshmen with talents beyond imagination, so they're all allowed to practice inside the palace. Furthermore, I will introduce you Elder Yue Jingchan, a golden-robed presbyter from the internal school." Everyone looked respectfully at the golden-robed old man and saluted him. Greetings to Elder Yue Jingchan. In the Western Campus, only the headmaster was allowed to wear a golden robe. For Elder Yue Jingchan to wear something similar meant his status was equal to the Lord of the Western Campus. Elder Yue Jingchan wore a generous smile. The Western Campus is doing very well with its many talented students. This year is particularly noteworthy. It's amazing there are 4 of you who passed the first obstacle on the 3rd floor in the Wu Tower. Out of all the freshmen from the 4 campuses, that's enough to put the Western Campus in 2nd place this year. Deputy Headmaster King Hu also wore a pleasant smile. Their freshmen typically came up last each year, but they managed to produce 4 prodigies and pushed the Western Campus to 2nd place. She was naturally proud as the deputy headmaster. Prince Yue Jingchan puffed out his chest and brought his hands together in a respectful gesture. He smiled and said, "It's our honor to be an external student of the School of the Martial Market." Elder Yue Jingchan smiled at Prince Yue crossing. "Perhaps you're all not familiar with me. Let me briefly introduce myself. I'm an array master, not a warrior." Deputy Headmaster King Hu added, "Elder Yue Jingchan is the leading array master in the internal school. His spiritual power has reached level 39, making him the strongest person in the martial market school." The students looked shocked to learn the man managed to reach level 39 in spiritual power. They could only look at him admiringly. "You can increase your spiritual power by practicing in Divine Power Palace. It's considered a waste of time and a stupid act for ordinary warriors, yet essential for true prodigies like you to elevate your spiritual power. Who can tell me the reason why the school wants you to do this?" Elder Yue Jingchan asked. The oldest student, Mu Chuozi, took a big step forward. "Prodigies can cultivate quickly, allowing us time to develop our spiritual power. As long as our spiritual power is strong enough, we can study arrays, refine pills, refine weapons, and tame animals." Yue Jingchan shook his head, unsatisfied with this answer. "You've complicated matters because you spend too much time practicing your spiritual power. That's why you still haven't achieved a breakthrough into the Earth realm." Embarrassed, Mu Chuozi stepped back and returned to his original spot. Huang Yanjin took a step forward, standing straight. She looked composed as she said, "We practice our spiritual power so we can achieve an easier breakthrough into the heaven realm or even the half-saint realm." Elder Yue Jingchan nodded gently and praised her answer. "Correct. There's not much to do with spiritual power in your practice before the heaven realm, but if you want to achieve that realm, there's a condition. Your spiritual power must reach level 20. Many warriors only realized the importance of practicing spiritual power after reaching the completion of the Earth realm. But it's too late by then. They'll need to put in 10 times more effort to reach level 20 and some wouldn't succeed even until the day they die. Besides, the stronger your spiritual power, the faster you cultivate in the heaven realm. The school conducted an experiment many years ago where 2 30-year-old top geniuses were given the same resources and environment for practice. The only difference was their level of spiritual power. One was at level 20, the other at level 30. The one with a level 20 spiritual power spent 5 years to break into the mid-stage of the heaven realm and spent a further 15 years to reach the advanced stage. Guess how long did it take the genius with a level 30 spiritual power? Yue Jingchan replied, the further you get, the more difficult it is to break into realms. I guess that the genius with a level 30 spiritual power needs at least 15 years to break into the advanced stage of the heaven realm. Elder Yue Jingchan gently shook his head. Zieling said, 10 years. Elder Yue Jingchan said, that genius with level 30 spiritual power spent only 2 years to break through to the mid-stage of the heaven realm, and took another 3 years to reach the advanced stage. It only took him 5 years in total. Boom. The students were all stunned. Both were top geniuses who had reached the heaven realm when they were 30, but one took 20 years while the other only needed 5. The difference was immense. Evidently, their gap would only continue to grow in the future. Just then, everyone realized the importance of spiritual power. Since they were geniuses, they had to consider their future paths. Ordinary students needn't consider their future as they may not even reach the heaven realm. There was no need for them to think about the future of their cultivation after that. Prince Yue Jingchan became excited, for he wasn't merely a warrior but a talented beast trainer as well. He had been practicing his spiritual power since young and was now at level 17. He glanced at Zhang Yuochen, revealing a trace of contempt as if to ask him, so what if you're talented? Your spiritual power is far behind me and I'll only be walking further ahead of you in the future. Elder Yue Jingchan continued, since everyone now understands the importance of spiritual power, how many of you know how it can help you right now? This time, everyone remained silent. Didn't he mention that spiritual power was only useful after reaching the heaven realm? Could it benefit warriors at a lower realm? But how? Refining weapons, refining pills, or perhaps taming animals? Evidently, Elder Yue Jingchan was referring to martial arts. Zhang Yuochen looked around at the other students and saw that no one seemed to know the answer. He thought for a moment before taking a step forward. I think if your spiritual power is stronger, you'll be able to grasp the superior levels of the sword faster compared to your peers. Elder Yue Jingchan's eyes lit up. He stared at Zhang Yuochen and said, what's your name, Zhang Yuochen? He replied. Elder Yue Jingchan showed an expression of sudden understanding. He laughed and said, I've heard your headmaster mention your names many times before we arrive at the western campus. He said you're a genius that can only be seen once in a century, praising you up to the high heavens. After we arrived, he purposely told me that you've already mastered the advanced stage of the sword following the mind. He had been showing off half the day. I didn't believe him at first, but I now do now that I've met you. Tell me, Zhang Yuochen, what is your spiritual power level? His spiritual power was so immense that when he imbued it into his eyes earlier and looked down at the students, everyone avoided his eyes and lowered their proud heads. Only Zhang Yuochen remained calm under his gaze. He thought this young man could not be any ordinary person and was no longer surprised after learning his name. How could the spiritual power of a 16-year-old young man who could practice the advanced stage of the sword following the mind be weak? Truth to be told, Zhang Yuochen wasn't sure of his current level. He only knew that he had reached level 32 in his previous life. In this life, he had triggered the time and space sacred mark and drew the cord of gods when he reached the ultimate realm in the yellow realm. He felt his spiritual power had risen significantly, but he wasn't sure the exact level. He would have to test it to know. Of course, he wouldn't tell everyone his spiritual power had already reached level 30. When he felt everyone's eyes on him, he hid the truth and said, I'm not sure. I suppose I'm at level 25. Besides Elder Yue Jingchan, no one else believed his answer. He was still so young. How could his spiritual power be at level 25? Would he die if he didn't boast? Huang Yanqian glared at Zhang Yuochen. She had entered the Divine Power Palace dozens of times to practice, yet her level was only at level 20. How could she believe Zhang Yuochen had already reached level 25? Prince Yue Jingchan was even more in disbelief. He smiled and said, Zhang Yuochen, everyone can brag. I can even say my spiritual power has already reached level 30. But who would believe it? It's fine if you don't believe me. Zhang Yuochen appeared not to care. He couldn't be bothered to explain even if no one believed him. It wasn't a big deal to him anyway. Besides, He didn't want everyone to learn about his true spiritual power level. If he appeared to be too talented, he would draw even more assassins to him. Prince Huoxing became even more convinced that Zhang Yuochen was lying. Since this was the case, why not take this opportunity to embarrass him in front of everyone? He clasped his hands together respectfully and bowed at Elder Yue Jingchan with a smile. Elder, I have a suggestion. Before we enter the Divine Power Palace, let's all test our spiritual powers. It'll be clear who among us are talented and mediocre.